Total Retail recently released its fourth annual Retail Technology Report, addressing retailers' spending behavior, as well as tracking trends in retail technology investments. To download your copy of the 2020 Retail Technology Report, go to mytotalretail.com/resources.
Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hi, I'm Joe Keenan of Total Retail. Thanks for joining us today. I am joined by Ben Scrivens, who is the founder of Fright-Rags. We're going to talk to Ben a little bit about his business and kind of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic that it's had on his particular business and kind of what they're doing to evolve during these challenging times. So thanks for joining me, Ben.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
So let's start by having you tell a little bit about Fright-Rags for those in our audience that might not be familiar with the company.
Sure. So I started Fright-Rags back in 2003. It's basically it's a company that specializes in horror apparel and accessories. So we basically get licenses for all different types of horror movies and design our own T-shirts and apparel and things and sell directly from our website direct to consumers.
That's what I was going to next. So distribution channels, all direct to consumer through the Fright-Rags site?
Yeah, so we do a little bit of wholesale, and we've worked with companies like Hot Topic and Spencer's in the past, but our primary business is our direct-to-consumer business directly from fright-rags.com.
Great. So let's then jump into a little bit about, as I alluded to in the opening there, just kind of how Fright-Rags business has been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And obviously it's had a huge effect on many businesses and industries. So let's talk about, the effects you're seeing.
Well, it's interesting. Our effect at the moment has actually been fairly positive. We've seen an uptick in orders over the last few weeks. When we first were issued our personal stay-at-home order here in New York in mid-March, things dipped down a little bit. We were uncertain as to whether or not we could continue to do our work. But as we kind of shifted, we were able to keep our website up and orders coming in and being shipped. And over the last few weeks, we've actually seen an uptick in orders, and it's been sort of surprising, but definitely appreciated, and we're able to keep sending them out to people. So we're very lucky and happy right now that we're able to continue to work.
Any theories as to why you've seen a little bit of an uptick in business over the last, I guess, month now?
I think part of it is, people are at home and they want to look forward to something. They look forward to getting mail. They look forward to, little things that they can, open up and just have that sort of moment and to experience a little bit of joy. It's like that retail therapy, but you can't go out to a store to buy something right now. So it's easier to just to order online and wait for it to come to you and have that little moment of maybe a little oasis in the middle of the day to open up something and get a little gift for yourself.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the company is based in New York and the stay-at-home order in that state and a lot of states as well. But particularly for your business, have you guys gone to a totally remote workforce at this point? And how's that kind of been going for you?
Yeah, for the most part, we are. So we're a small team. We only have 7 people in our company. One person already works from his home because he's about 45 minutes away. He's our lead designer. So the 6 of us normally would work out of our office and warehouse in downtown Rochester. Right now, all of us are home working remotely with the exception of 2 of our warehouse people. They split shifts in the warehouse. We were able to continue to work even as a non-essential business as long as it was only one person on site. So
Okay.
One person takes the morning shift and the other person takes the afternoon shift, and they're still able to continue packing and filling orders. And it's a little bit slower because we don't have 2 or 3 people doing it at a time all day, every day, but customers are very understanding, and we're still able to keep up pretty much with the amount of orders that we get.
And then how about your, a number of businesses have been challenged by disruptions in their supply chain. Has that had any impact yet? Or maybe it has and you've kind of thought of, gotten around that? Talk a little bit about product and your supply chain.
So yeah, it has a little bit. mostly what we sell are t-shirts, and those t-shirts are printed just a couple miles away from us, right in our town. So that print shop has been affected because they had to severely reduce their workforce due to, well, not only the stay-at-home orders, but the lack of business coming in as well. So they've been able to keep printing our shirts. It's taking them a little bit longer, but the good thing is we were pretty well ahead in ordering our t-shirts for this month's releases. We release items pretty much every week, so we were able to have most of our items for our releases done ahead of time, and then we're kind of ordering much more in advance where we can, just so to give them a heads up and a little more lead time to get our products. But it's affected us. Maybe we've had to add maybe 3 to 5 days to our process, but nothing major. Everything else that we get is generally from overseas, but those orders we've either gotten before all this happened or we're still waiting on, but we were expecting them next month. So far, no major delays on those.
Something that comes to mind, and it's, you mentioned that you license from horror films. Has this impacted the film industry, and does that kind of trickle down? Do you see an impact on your business as a result of what's happening in terms of the film industry and a slowdown there?
Well, we generally license mostly older films. I mean, we do some newer films as well. And I know, clearly many new films are being impacted, whether they've shut down production because of what's going on, or they can't be released because movie theaters just aren't open. So we haven't directly seen any effect in that regard because we currently don't have any licenses for movies that would be released in the next couple months. We do have some that will be released later this year, and hopefully we can still put our products out in line with the movie premiere. But if that gets shifted to a later date, then we'll have to adjust our releases and hopefully adjust with our licensor to make sure that we can still not only produce the items, but maybe extend our license agreement and things like that. But in general, our releases are based on movies that people are sort of already familiar with, that have been out for years, sort of a retro type thing. So I don't, that part hasn't really affected us.
Yep. And then how about your audience and your customer base? Do you want to tell us a little bit about the typical Fright-Rag customer, or maybe there isn't one? Maybe it's all ages, both genders.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. It's interesting. Horror is a great unifier. It doesn't really know, age, gender, race. It's interesting. We do a lot of horror conventions, and you just get every walk of life that's a fan. So our age base, our demographic is generally in the late 20s to mid 40s, about 70% male, 30% female. But I mean, there's just, they're all over the world. We ship, globally, predominantly, the US, but in Canada, but we do ship all over the world. And it's interesting. You could meet somebody you had no idea was a horror fan and start talking about movies. And, next thing you know, you find out that you have a common bond with them with some random horror movie from the 80s.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then how are these customers finding Fright-Rags? Is it, some of the organic channels like social media, or maybe organic search, or what are some of the different ways that you're trying to get the brand out there and, create an engine for customer acquisition?
Well, we have a few different ways. Luckily, because we've been around since 2003, and the horror community, as large as it is, it's also a pretty tight-knit community. And so we've got quite a bit of brand loyalty within the community. People know us because we've been around for so long. But given that, we still have to keep, we can't rest on that, obviously, to drive traffic to our website. So we do a number of things. We do a lot of social media advertising across Facebook, Instagram, even Google. Organic ranking, we rank pretty high for things like horror t-shirts. So if you type in horror shirts in Google, we normally come up number 1, number 2. So that's pretty good. In fact, I know Google Trends shows us actually the name Fright-Rags outranks horror shirts at certain times of the year. It's sometimes even in the fall, where, clearly around Halloween, where you get the most traffic. You'll see the term Fright-Rags actually being used as much, if not more, than horror shirts. So the brand pervasiveness, we've been lucky to really kind of, get in there to the community. And we're just very active on social media anyway, and in engaging with our customers. And we do a lot of marketing to our customers. Once they're kind of in our system, we use Klaviyo and other technology to market to them and keep them engaged.
So you mentioned one of the, challenges, and your customers have been really understanding, is that, it's taking a little bit more time if you've had to cut down on the number of workers in the warehouses. It's taking longer to fulfill and get items to customers to their homes. Do you want to talk about, that challenge, or maybe any other challenges that you've kind of been confronted with in this kind of current business climate that we're in? And then just the second part to that is any solutions you may have put in place to address them.
I mean, definitely making sure our communication, the challenge with the communication has really just been giving our customers accurate information. And when things change seemingly every day, we don't want to bombard our customers with information and constant contact, but we also want to keep them informed. So for things like order delays, we will have notifications on the website, banner on the top so people can click for more information, but we'll also send out automatic emails as soon as someone orders. Just an email will shoot out to them saying, hey, just to let you know there is a shipping delay, or things like that. And other than that, we've just been sort of keeping an eye on things. And if anything changes, we as a team talk about if we need to address it with our customers and what would be the best way to communicate that to them. And we're just very transparent as a company anyway. So anytime we feel the need to express something that's changing or anything that could impact our customers, we'll jump on social media, we'll do a video, we'll send an email. So we're very communicative with them.
And have you had to balance at this time, what is your customer expecting from Fright-Rags at this time? Have you kind of developed a certain kind of brand voice, and has that had to change at all since we've kind of been in this health crisis, or maybe it hasn't? What do they expect from you, and maybe how have you had to adapt the way that you communicate with your customers?
It's interesting. I think in general, I think our brand voice has remained consistent. Again, the expectation is more of, am I going to get my order? Are you able to ship my order because of what's going on? And I think we do a pretty good job of letting people know that, yep, orders are still going out and it's just going to take a couple days. But in terms of just our how we're presenting our brand, we've actually been increasing our level of engagement on social media because people are at home and they're consuming more media, whether it's streaming video or obviously being on Instagram more or whatever. I actually started a segment on Instagram called Shirt Stories, where because I've been going through old t-shirts in my basement. I collect all of my old designs. We have an archive of them. They're all in my basement, as well as my own personal t-shirts. And as I was going through them, I started sharing stories on Instagram just about these t-shirts, the stories behind the designs and what came to be. And I've been doing a few now, and they've been getting really good traction. People seem to really like me just kind of hopping on a video and telling these stories. So it's been kind of a neat, positive spin on all of this, being more just connecting with our customers more in different ways.
Yeah, and I think to your point, you're getting that connection with customers and kind of taking their mind off of what's really a stressful situation. You're kind of adding some, fun and levity to a situation, and making your brand seem authentic and real, with your story. So is that kind of what you're seeing and, anticipate happening with that stories that you've been creating?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, people have said almost exactly that, they've said things like, thanks for taking my mind off of what's going on. I really look forward to these stories. I've been doing 1 to 2 a week. So it's really interesting when, and it's humbling, when people take the time to respond to things like that, and you connect with them, just like you said, you just connect in a different way. And it's not promoting a product. Hey, buy this, buy that. It's, hey, let's just talk about our common love of movies or things. Or, again, the stories behind these shirts are more like, things that people didn't know, like all the inside info, like why this design looks this way or what happened. And, I try to keep it as interesting as possible, and people seem really engaged, and they just seem to like it a lot.
Yeah, that's a good segue into my next question. Is I'm going to talk about advice you might have for other small business owners who are trying to kind of manage their brands in this time of crisis. And, the way that you've done that through content is one way. Any other thoughts on, advice for small business owners that are trying to keep their businesses afloat and try to survive this time? And, it could be even not only just communication with customers, but managing their teams internally. What are your thoughts there, Ben, on, things that small business owners should have in mind and potential tips that you can give them?
Well, I think communication is key, especially amongst the team members, because I can't meet with my team every day or I'm not around them every day. We always use Slack anyway, even when we're in the office. But, in the office, there's casual conversation about things that are happening or meetings and just to talk about upcoming releases. Whereas now I've sort of become more efficient where I will send out a weekly email to my team, letting them know some things that are going on so that they can be prepared either on the customer service front or production front or, just shipping and receiving. So that's actually been very helpful. It's sort of replaced our weekly meetings. And then, of course, we use Slack on a daily basis where we communicate very quickly back and forth, things that are coming up. And then lastly, at least with our team, we're doing a virtual cocktail hour tomorrow night, just not recorded, not for public, just for us to hang out with each other over Zoom and talk and just sort of be just, because we're like a family anyway. So we're all friends and just to kind of see each other and talk. But as far as other ways small businesses can adjust, I think it's, if small businesses are used to having customers and having a storefront, they need to be able to shift to an online presence somehow and provide products that, they can ship. Or if they can't ship, is there something digital they can put up that, like a download or a subscription or, something. Again, it's content and it's communication, I think, are the two keys to just keeping in the top of mind in customers and top of minds during this time so that they can stay present and hopefully bounce back when things get back to normal, whenever that's going to happen.
Yeah, and that was going to be my final question, Ben, is kind of when we get back to normal. Obviously, no one knows that yet, but just kind of from your perspective, looking ahead, what do you foresee for Fright-Rags and in particular, but also you can expand a little bit on just the retail industry and kind of e-commerce space in post-COVID? Like, what do you see? How do you see consumers behaving? Do you see, shifts and taking place and continuing once we get kind of back to normal? What is your perspective there?
I personally see companies shifting or at least spending more time on their e-commerce models. Now, clearly, e-commerce has been huge for years, and of course, Black Friday and even Cyber Monday have been huge. And we've seen those numbers for a long time increasing. And of course, bigger companies like Target and Walmart have already spent billions of dollars, upping their e-commerce game to match Amazon. But I think even smaller companies that might have relied more on a physical retail space to buoy their business, I think are going to have to shift to an e-commerce model that is going to help support them, because we don't know how long this is going to last. And if you're used to selling your goods in a store at the mall, who knows when the next time they're going to have malls open where there are, crowds of people. For instance, we sell at conventions every year, several conventions throughout the year, horror conventions, and you're talking 20, 50,000 people at a show. And I don't know when that's going to happen again. So people who rely on that as a source of income, we rely on it, but it's not our main source of income. So if those shows are gone, we can survive. But there are some people that rely solely on that. They're going to have to shift to some sort of e-commerce model to keep their business alive. I mean, look, San Diego Comic-Con literally just canceled this morning. So, that is huge for a lot of people, obviously big companies, but small alike. So it's really going to have to, transform how a company does business.
Yeah, that's what we're hearing a lot from, we've been having these conversations, whether it be on the podcast or, other interviews we've been doing with business owners. And I think that's kind of a common refrain we've been hearing is that, as this shift to digital happens, brands kind of need to get up to speed as physical retails, it'll come back, but will it be the same? And, how can brands prepare for the future where shoppers may be even more comfortable shopping online? So,
Agreed.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Ben Scrivens of Fright-Rags for joining me today on the podcast. Thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you so much, Joe. I really appreciate you having me.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.
Total Retail recently released its 4th annual Retail Technology Report, addressing retailers' spending behavior, as well as tracking trends in retail technology investments. To create the report, Total Retail surveyed its audience of retail executives to better understand their current usage of technology, future technology needs and wants, and their processes within their organizations for technology purchases. To download your copy of the 2020 Retail Technology Report, go to mytotalretail.com/resources.